All right, man, peace. You know, brothers, when I first started watching college basketball, and for the brothers who are old enough to remember, at one time, college basketball was as good as NBA basketball when it came to tournament play. And a lot of the higher profile teams, when I say as good, I'm not saying the players were as good, I'm saying the overall competition was as good. The fervor was as high. And when I first started watching college basketball, there were certain standout players like Alonzo Mourning and Dikembe Mutombo in Georgetown, Billy Owens at Syracuse. Of course, you had the Fab Five in Michigan. And with Duke, that was always a team that I always rooted against. I could not stand those dudes. I couldn't stand Bobby Hurley. I couldn't stand Christian Laettner. I couldn't stand Grant Hill because he played for Duke. And they just seemed like one of these preppy type teams that was so very annoying. And I remember the first NCAA championship that I watched was when Duke was able to overthrow UNLV. UNLV, for those of you who remember, with Larry Johnson and Stacey Augmon, Greg Anthony, so on and so forth. I believe Anderson Hunt. Great team. Very talented, coached by Jerry Tarkanian. Well, Duke came to the forefront by knocking off that team, a team that they didn't even think that they were going to defeat. Well, that was when Coach K, Coach Mike Krzyzewski, truly came into prominence as being a transcendent coach. And in the years after that, he's proven his mettle. He's also been a top-level Olympic coach, coaching professionals. He was part of the staff of the first Dream Team. Well, anyway, he stopped in to talk about his recruits. They will be expected to win the NCAA championship. I saw them play their first game. They have Mr. Zion Williamson, who, to be quite frank with you, reminds me of a left-handed Charles Barkley, except a couple of inches taller. So he could be transcendent. We'll see how things turn out for him. So they're going to talk about it. I'm going to chime in.
Well, that's nothing new for our next guest. High expectations with a great recruiting class. Last year, Duke ended with a loss in the Elite Eight, and all 5 starters went to the NBA. This year, they have a recruiting class that includes 3 recruits that are already being projected to be top 10 picks in the NBA draft. He's the only coach to lead the nation to 3 consecutive Olympic gold medals. And we welcome him now, 5-time national champion and Hall of Famer Mike Krzyzewski to the show. Coach.
Hey, Coach.
How are you guys? Nice to be with you.
Coach, there was a time when you didn't like recruiting one and dones, didn't want to do it, but times have changed. What's been the biggest adjustment you've had to make?
No real adjustment. If he wanted to continue to win, he had to change his ways. Because the coach over there with Kentucky, John Calipari, was making him look stupid. So Mike Krzyzewski understood that if we want to continue to compete and win championships, we have to get down and dirty just like he is.
Well, the main thing is they used to have just high school kids could go right away, and then for a few years we didn't recruit that level of guy, and then we were playing against them all the time. And so we recruit the same type of young man, but that young man now is able to go after 1 year. I mean, Battier, Laettner, Hill, those guys could have gone after 1 year, but that wasn't the market at that time.
That's the point. So the point is, if you want the top players, you have to agree to one and done, because the vast majority of one and done are going to be the top recruits out of high school. That's what that comes down to, Coach K. So Coach K trying to act like, well, we always had those type of players, but back then they couldn't go. It took you a long time to come to terms with the fact that, yeah, we are going to have to agree with players that they could leave after 1 year. And once you agree to that, then now you have the top recruits again.
So you just have to put a new team together each year. We have a good group this year. We had a good group last year too, but we have a bunch of basketball players this year, and I think a little bit more developed upper class. So they're really meshing well.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, Coach, because I've heard a lot about your classes over the years. You look at your last 10 classes, some people would say that you've got, the recruitment has been absolutely insane. You've dominated the last decade pretty much. But I'm thinking about R.J. Barrett, Cam Reddish, Zion Williamson. These guys are some special dudes. I have not heard, it's been a long time rather than I've heard a class be spoken of the way you guys are being spoken of right now.
Probably not since the Anthony Davis class with Kentucky. Has there been a group of incoming freshmen as ballyhooed as the freshmen with Duke this season?
Talk to me about this particular class and how special you think they're going to be.
Yeah, well, Stephen A., they're basketball players, and they're not positions, and so I think it gives me an advantage to put in an offensive and defensive system that goes with that flexibility. You talk about positionless. These three kids are, and R.J. Barrett, he's had the experience of playing for the Canadian national team and has that maturity going for him, and he's a very, very mature basketball player. Zion is
a man-child. That's what he is. He reminds me of a mix of Charles Barkley and Shawn Kemp.
The most unique athlete I've coached at Duke. And
why is that?
Well, because watch him.
He's 280 pounds with a 45-inch vertical, Stephen A. Smith.
Watch him throughout the year.
I just want you to tell me, that's all.
Yeah, he's what he has is, everyone talks about his ability to dunk and jump, but he has great body control. He has guard skills. He's 270 pounds and about 6'5", 6'7", and can play any position. And then in Cameron Reddish, he has 6'8" guard, beautiful player, one of the best shooters, and he has a huge upside. And the cool thing about all three of those guys, along with Trey Jones, Tyus's brother, they're all about winning, and they can all pass, and they really love to play together and use their skills together. And our upper classes combined, we have really good chemistry with this group.
You said Zion Williamson was the most, you said unique, but I guess you mean special, gifted athlete you've coached ever, or at least at Duke?
Yes, Max Kellerman, you heard him right. He said that Zion Williamson is the most special athlete that he's had at Duke. That means above Grant Hill. That's what he's saying, because I'm sure that that's going to be your follow-up question.
Yeah, at Duke, I think the other two would be Grant Hill and Johnny Dawkins. But Zion at this...
Johnny Dawkins, by the way, was the player coming out of Duke that Michael Jordan wanted the Chicago Bulls to draft to team up with him in the backcourt.
Weight, when you look at him, you say, there's no way. And then 45-inch vertical.
He keeps going up.
Yeah, and fluidity. But he can really handle the ball and pass, and he understands the game. He has good people skills right away. I love my team, and I love these kids because they want to get better. And they're...
No, Coach K, you love these kids because they're going to make you millions of dollars. That's why you love them. Give me a break.
They're secure. They're not worried about what the other freshman is doing or who's getting ahead or whatever. They're worried about winning and playing really good basketball.
Yeah, there's no way that Williamson's going to be at Duke for more than a year. He's already built like an NBA player. I mean, to be honest with you, his physique is more NBA ready than LeBron James's was.
Basketball together. I've actually loved being with this group.
Coach, you bring up Zion Williamson. I have to ask you, his name came up this week at the college basketball corruption trial that involves the FBI and wiretaps. Revealed that his stepfather asked for some things from the University of Kansas, including a job and cash. What do you make of your player's name coming up in this trial?
Well, we're confident that nothing evolved, that nothing happened. And
of course you're confident that nothing happened, Coach K, because you've already crossed your T's and dotted your I's. When you're talking about top-level coaches like Calipari and Krzyzewski, they know all the ins and outs on how to avoid those FBI investigations and things of that nature.
In that regard, these kids go through a very thorough eligibility process with the eligibility center at the NCAA each summer, and with all the top players, the 10 to 15 players in the country, not just Zion. The NCAA goes through a really exhaustive process where the parents, the kid, a lot of times family records are shown, and he went through all of that. We feel very confident about everything. And, just because something is set.
And if anything comes up short, you'll just find the right palms to grease, right, Coach K? I mean, let's be for real. But this is common modus operandi for many of these parents. Not only do they ask for money under the table, they get cars, they get houses. Look at what happened with Reggie Bush. They just have to find a way to do so where they're not getting traced and they're not getting tracked. At the very least, what many of these parents deserve is a house. It probably should be a house for both parents and cars for all the money that top recruits make for these universities.
Said about a guy.
Once again, in my view, people talk about trying to change the NCAA system. Not only could you pay the players, but you're going to have to figure out a way to pay most of the top players. The parents should be recompensed in some way as well. And everyone in the immediate family should have the lifetime ability to attend that university free of charge, to take up whatever courses and classes that they want for the rest of their life. That would be fair.
It doesn't mean that happened. So I think we can jump to a conclusion there that hurts the young man. Let's put it that way. It can hurt the young man.
Coach, let me jump back to the basketball court with a direct question towards you in this regard. I mean, obviously you're five-time champion. We know what you are. You're a Hall of Famer, one of the greatest coaches, arguably the greatest coach we've ever seen. My question to you is, have you evolved to the point where you don't feel pressure, or do you find yourself feeling more pressure than you ever have before because of the talent that you've accumulated and the greatness attached to your name? Some people will look at Coach K with this talent and say, how could you possibly lose? You better not.
Stephen A. Smith, at this point in this dude's career, there is no pressure on him because they're not going to blame him. They're going to blame the kids. That's just the fact of the matter.
What do you say to that?
Yeah, I think as long as you're coaching or playing, you have to feel some level of pressure, or else you're not going to respond to the level of talent that you have individually at that time.
That's true, Coach Krzyzewski, but you know just like I know, college sports is for the coaches, professional sports is for the players. They're not going to fire you because you did not win a national championship. Now, it may get to the point where you become so advanced in age that they feel like, maybe it's time to move on to someone else. And he is approaching that age. I'm not quite sure how old Krzyzewski is. He's somewhere in his mid to late 60s, most likely. Either way, they're not going to blame him. You have to truly fuck up, like a Coach Pitino or somebody like that, for them to consider removing you, or go off the deep end like Bobby Knight did.
As a competitor or coach, but also to match the pressure that a team feels. I think you have to be one with your team, and so I've always felt that. That doesn't mean that's not bad. I mean, that's good, and I think it makes you prepare harder, fight harder, and be in the moment that you're in now. I hope if I'm immune from pressure, I'm going to be in a lot. I should get out of the game. I should get out of the game. But I love being in that arena with my team. I'm sorry, my big ears are not holding the suitcase as well,
Coach,
as it possibly could.
But anyway, that's basically it on that. We'll see how things go with the Duke Blue Devils. So peace.